Welcome to another edition of Parks and Recognize. Thank you for helping us celebrate and recognize the remarkable Parks and Rec pros who foster community spirit, inspire engagement, and ensure that everyone has equal access to parks and wellness activities in their communities. In each episode, we sit down with passionate Parks and Recreation professionals to explore the crucial work they do, their journey in the Parks and Rec world, and the passion that drives them to do what they do. I'm your host, Atis Mosenipur, VP of Marketing at Xplor Recreation, and today I'm joined by the one and only Nick Shattuck of Hermosa Beach, California. Thanks for joining us today, Nick.
Let's go. I'm excited to be here. We finally got it in.
As am I, sir. Well, we always like to kick these interviews off with a little bit of a fun icebreaker to get to know you. Now, Nick, I know you're very passionate about music, but I want to ask you a pretty loaded question here. What is your favorite band of all time?
You warned me this is the hard one. So it's definitely loaded. I don't feel like I am a person with the classic favorite band. You get asked that question a lot. I think it kind of changes. I have my favorite guys I like to go to. I like a guy named Ray LaMontagne, who's this very soulful, folky, raspy voice singer-songwriter, singing about broken hearts and traveling all over the place. But and then lately I've been listening to guys like Zach Bryan. I've been listening to some of my favorites of there's actually a Canadian artist that I've been following for 15 years named Donovan Woods, and he's a singer-songwriter out of, I don't know, man, Alberta or something around that. I think it's somewhere.
It's our neighboring province out here in Vancouver, British Columbia.
It's somewhere out there. I probably butchered it, but he's an incredible singer-songwriter from Canada. I've been listening to. I tend to listen to like the folky, the storytellers, the indie folk guys. But then on the opposite end, I like Notorious B.I.G. I like Tupac. I like hip hop as well. So it's tough to hit a favorite for me. I range from what my mood is what I'm listening to for that day. So.
Fair enough. I figured it'd be a bit of a tough one with you being as passionate about music as you are. Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that. Now let's jump into a little bit about your career in Parks and Recreation. So I'm very fortunate to have gotten to know you over the past year through several events and through some of our involvement with District 9. But for people joining us today who haven't had the pleasure of getting to know you, tell us a little bit about yourself. What do you do and where do you do it?
Thank you so much. So, like you said, my name is Nick Shattuck. I'm originally from a state, Wisconsin, so the Midwest of the United States here. And right now I live in California. I work for the city of Hermosa Beach as a recreation coordinator. And I've been working in rec in some form or another for 20 years, which is insane. So I know, looking at me, you can't tell, but it's been a long time.
Babyface Nick, yeah, that's wild. What was your first job in rec?
Sure. So I say 20 years pretty loosely. For the city of Hermosa, I'm about to hit my 13th year in this organization alone. But since I was 18 years old, I've been working in recreation in some form. Back in Wisconsin, I worked for the city of Oshkosh, which is a tiny little city on the east side of Wisconsin, and their recreation programs. I've moved back to my city of La Crosse, Wisconsin, on the western side, right along the Mississippi River, and worked for the YMCA for a couple of years in youth programming and after-school programs. And then I actually ended up living on Catalina Island outside the coast of California, working at a residential summer camp called Catalina Island Camps for 2 summers before I finally hit the mainland of California. And within pretty much like a couple weeks of moving here, packing up all my belongings and driving across the country to California on my own with no job and no friends or family, I found this job for the city of Hermosa as a part-time youth programs counselor in the program I now direct and oversee. So it's been quite the journey in recreation. Clearly I like it. So I just keep doing it, and it's been incredible.
Thanks for sharing that, Nick. And may I ask what led you to start your career in Parks and Rec when you first got involved in your hometown?
It's a really great question. I think the career of Parks and Rec, it's not hidden, but people don't really put it together that you can have a career in it unless you have the right guidance and direction into it. I think a lot of us experience Parks and Rec throughout our entire life. Like you said earlier, whether it's just taking a blanket out to your favorite park and having a picnic, if a lot of kids are in partaking in Parks and Rec, whether they know it or not, because their parents are signing them up for after school programs and summer camps and soccer classes and swimming lessons. And a lot of that outside of the private industry is, private or municipal here, which I'm in now, is obviously Parks and Rec. So I think just as a kid and being part of the programs, going to camps, going to classes, eventually led me to being 18 years old, looking for a job when I was in school and college, and seeing a city post that, hey, we're hiring for our summer camp. I've always liked working with kids. I used to babysit and all that. And I thought about getting into teaching, but I wasn't really thrilled about being in charge of children's educations. So I ended up going towards the recreation. I'm like, hey, I can get outside and play dodgeball with these kids on the field, and that's just as impactful as teaching them some things in a classroom, in my opinion.
I definitely agree. That's incredible. Before we hit record on this call, we were kind of talking about just the importance of Parks and Rec and how much Parks and Rec professionals impact communities everywhere. I'm a firm believer that Parks and Rec pros are the heartbeat of communities everywhere. Nick, what does community mean to you?
That's a really great question. I almost feel like community, obviously has its basic definition, but I feel like you feel community more than you can define community. So when you walk through your town and you grab a coffee from a little local coffee shop, and that barista knows your name and knows your order, and then you walk down a little bit and that's your barber shop that you get your at once a month or so, and then you walk and you get lunch later and you see some friends sitting at a table across from you and they say, hi, Datis, what's up, man? Good to see you. How was your weekend? And then later you're walking your dog around the block and you say hi to a neighbor or an old friend. And then at the end of the night, you take your significant other out for dinner and you see your favorite bartender, and they mix your favorite drink. To me, that's community. That more than just a basic definition of people coming together and living in society together. Community is a feeling more so than a defined term.
That intangible just sense of belonging.
Yeah, exactly. The feeling of being welcomed in wherever you are in life, in whatever city that is, and whoever you're surrounded by in that moment, that is community to me.
I love that. So, Nick, in the short time that I've known you, I've witnessed several impressive accomplishments. Can you share some of your proudest moments in your career as a Parks and Rec professional, and what made them so special to you?
That's a great question. Like I said before, my Parks and Rec career has kind of spanned several states and several decades now. So if I could piece it apart, there's several moments that kind of stick out as my proudest moments. I think one of them is my ability to leave what my comfort zone of Wisconsin and in my small town in Wisconsin. So my proudest moment, and this may sound weird, but was like maybe just leaving home and challenging myself and going to Catalina Island and working on this remote island for 2 summers in a row and hiking and taking kids on kayaking trips and just seeing how much those kids grow within a summer's length or even like the 1 to 2 week session. So that was one of my proudest moments in my career, is just taking a group of 8-year-olds on a kayaking trip and camping out overnight on this deck open under all the stars and hearing the waves crash. And And then working for the city of Hermosa Beach here in Southern California, just working here for so long, I literally watched these kids grow up to the point of now I'm hiring them. Now they're coming back and working as counselors. They were, 10 years old in my program, 9 years old in my program, and 13 years later, they're coming back looking for jobs. And just seeing how they have transformed into these awesome young adults that are out there with their own um, chapters of life now and their own adventures, and they're in school. And that's super proud to be from a pretty small little area. We talked about community and watching these kids grow up and seeing their parents every single day as we grow up too is definitely one of my proudest moments in Parks and Recreation. And that's that kind of intangible that you can't really put on a resume, but you work somewhere long enough and you work your butt off and you treat everybody the same and you be a good person, and that comes back tenfold in my experience.
I don't doubt that. And it's so cool to hear that you've inspired other kids and folks in your community to grow into Parks and Rec professionals themselves, whether it be just kind of part-time over the summer, or if they choose a career path down there. It's cool to see that you've inspired folks that way.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
I kind of had something in mind as part of your answer, but I'm not surprised that you left it out. I want to put you on the spot a little bit here. Some folks may not know this, but District 9, which is part of the California Parks and Recreation Society Association, you're the president of that group. Tell us a little bit about your involvement in District 9.
Yeah, it's a great question, and thanks so much. Like you said, District 9 is part of the California Parks and Rec Society, just a professional organization that pushes and strives to connect members. And you talked about community earlier. It's just a big community of Parks and Rec professionals. And in District 9, I am the president this year. It's my third year in a 3-year presidential series. So you work as vice president and a president-elect, and your third year is actually your presidential year. And before that, I worked 1 year on the board before I decided to jump into the presidential series. Um, Getting involved with CPRS is definitely probably one of the smartest things I've done as a professional in Parks and Recreation. And my only one regret is just not getting involved 6, 7 years before I actually did, because I would have so much more experience in it. D9 is a really fun opportunity to connect with other professional Parks and Rec men and women in my area. So I've been doing that for the last 4 years, and we plan socials and trainings, and we bring different organizations within our area together, and you get to meet like-minded Parks and Rec professionals, get to vent a little bit, get to share stories about how crazy and random and wild this field actually is, and how it's exactly like the TV show. If anybody ever asks, it's exactly like the TV show. And we're looking forward to having a great year as my presidential year. We have a lot of fun planned.
Amazing. Thanks for sharing that. So which Parks and Rec character are you then?
We get asked that a lot, and I feel like there's several like obvious ones, and I'm gonna blank on their names. But I think I'm a combination of obviously Andy, the goofy guitar player guy.
Yes.
But then I think I definitely have who's the boss? Tom? No, not Tom. Who's the
Ron? No.
Ron. Yeah, I definitely have some Ron in me. Ron Swanson.
Ron Swanson. Yeah.
I definitely have some Swanson in me for sure, because I can come in as the ornery old man as well. And this place can wear you down. Being a public servant can be very exhausting. And that's what you see in a character like Ron Swanson. It's communities want and need a lot from their government, and as they deserve. And it's just some days can be a little bit longer than others. So I'll just leave it at that. But so I'm probably a combination of those two specifically for sure.
Well, you can't be until you get a Ron Swanson style mustache on that upper left.
You were going to say that. I knew you were gonna say that. You're picking on my Norwegian heritage, and I've tried once before. It's not a pretty thing, and if I want to stay married, it's best if I don't grow that Ron Swanson mustache.
Fair game. Not all goals are worth shooting for.
But
All right. Look, Nick, obviously you're a very busy individual between the work you do for your community as part of your role at Hermosa Beach, but also then the volunteer work you do as part of your extended community as president of District 9. When you're not busy doing these things, what can we expect you to be doing?
well, I'm kind of a psychopath in terms of after all the work and the extra work through D9, I don't like to go home and sit on the couch. I mean, don't get me wrong, some days that's fantastic, but as you know, I'm a singer-songwriter, so and a photographer, so I have a creative side to me. And for as long as I've been doing Parks and Rec, I've been pursuing music as well in some form, either just by writing and recording and releasing songs, or playing some cool shows, or trying to get songs onto television shows and movies, and all the side hustle that it is to be a singer-songwriter in this modern day age where you can just get music for free. So I'm releasing a new album this summer. I'm really excited about it. It's the best stuff I've ever recorded, and it's going to be a fun time just releasing those songs. So right now I'm setting up single release shows, and trying to connect and trying to get people excited about the music.
And obviously I knew what your answer to this would be, being
Right.
friends with you on Facebook and having built a friendship off of our initial relationship here. But yeah, I definitely want to shout you out for the incredible music that you're making, and it's been really cool to follow your journey of your creative passions and your photography as well. It's really impressive stuff. I just don't understand how you have the time to do it, and firmly believe that you probably have a twin and you two both just assume the identity of Nick.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I just have one. I feel like I have that, how some like breeds of dogs need to be like ran a little extra hard. So I feel like if I don't have those side projects and side hustles, I'd probably drive my wife crazy. And I need to be distracted and moving towards that next goal. I've learned that about my personality. So, and on top of it, it's a lot of fun. And I consider work fun too. Parks and Rec is one of my fun things I get to do, and I feel very blessed and lucky that I get to do all this fun stuff in life.
It's really impressive, Nick. And hey, we'll drop links to your Spotify account and all that, where people can learn about your music, experience it, follow your album journey, as well as check out your photography.
Thank you. I appreciate that a lot.
I appreciate you. Well, hey, before we close things out, I want to wrap things up by asking you about any advice you'd like to share with other Parks and Rec pros. Look, you've been involved for 20 years in various capacities in different cities, different states. I'm sure there's a lot of valuable insights that you could share with other folks who are listening in today.
Like anything in life, while I've been doing this for a long time, I'm still not the expert. There's always stuff to learn. There's always things to add to the tool belt. But the one thing I would stress, and the one thing I stress to my young employees that seem to be interested in Parks and Rec, is tying back into the community aspect that we talked before, and just getting involved, And with D9 and CPRS, I said earlier that I wish I would have got involved earlier. And so now I strive to be the supervisor and the mentor that teaches these younger professionals that the quicker you get involved, the more you connect with other like-minded individuals, the more you grow together. Much like music and photography, there's room on top for everybody, and we just can grow together. So get involved with California Parks and Rec. If you're in California, if you're in a different state, a different country, there's going to be similar professional organizations. When you're sitting there and connecting with a supervisor or a director of your local Parks and Rec departments, and they see that you're spending time outside of work to connect with other like-minded individuals, it's going to help you, and you're going to learn from them, and you're going to grow your career farther than you ever think you would just by sitting there having a beer with another Parks and Rec person. So It's crazy. I say just get involved, build your own communities, and then help each other out, and and just keep growing.
Well, I'm not at all surprised that your advice had to do with community.
Right.
Well, Nick, it's always such a pleasure connecting with you. I'm so grateful for your time today. And as always, really grateful for this friendship that unexpectedly grew out of our initial discussions around Xplor Recreation's involvement with District 9. So thank you so much. It's been a real pleasure.
Hey, thank you for having me and highlighting some of the Parks and Rec professionals out here working hard to try to keep everyone having open recreation. So and shout out to Xplor. Meeting you all at Xplor has been fantastic. I love the relationship we're building. Can't wait to get back to Vancouver. Can't wait to get you guys down here in Los Angeles, and we'll keep at it.
Yeah, I can't wait to get over to one of your shows. That's a high priority on my list.
I can bring a guitar to Vancouver too, so I'll bring my guitar up, man. We'll plan a show in Vancouver and we'll do it.
Done deal. Done deal. Right. Thanks, Nick.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks, Natis.